Vanakkam, welcome back to Keystone IAS Academy. Today we are going to look at four very important articles from the Hindu newspaper dated 6th November 2025, all linked with UPSC GS paper 2 and GS paper 3 topics. So these topics connect governance, judiciary, economy, elections and climate change. So make sure to note the key terms and link them to your syllabus. Let's start with the first article, the Household Income Survey 2026. So what the article says is India is preparing to conduct its first ever household income survey to collect direct data on household earnings, expenditure and financial conditions, but faces major challenges due to the sensitive nature of income questions, respondent hesitation and data reliability issues. And this article directly connects to GS paper 2 and paper 3, especially inclusive growth. So this is India's first ever direct income survey. This is very important, first ever direct income survey, which means instead of just asking people what they spend or what jobs they have, it will now collect actual data on what each household earns. So this is a big step so far. Our data on income has always been indirect. Means through surveys like periodic labor force survey and household consumption expenditure survey only we are calculating income. Through PLFS, which studies jobs and wages. Household consumption expenditure survey, which assumes income based on the household spending. But both of these don't really tell us the true financial condition of households, especially about inequality, class struggle or savings. Okay, so especially about inequality, class structure or savings. So the new survey will cover both income and expenditure. Including salaries, bonuses, agriculture income, property, loans, pensions and even state specific welfare schemes like Tamil Nadu's Kalinyar Mahalir Urimai Thittam. So it will also ask about expenses like seats, rent, materials, so we can understand real profit margins. But there's a challenge. So in this test, almost 95% of respondents were uncomfortable sharing income details. Many overstated expenses or refused to reveal taxes. People see income questions as sensitive or intrusive. To solve this, the government plans awareness programs, local language field staff, and even a self-filing system for affluent households in gated communities. So if implemented properly, this survey can revolutionize policy making, giving us real-time, accurate data to assess poverty, rural distress, and income inequality. So remember, this is directly linked to GS paper 3 Indian economy, especially as I told it comes under the inclusive growth. So before we move to the next topic, pause the video here, practice this question. As the question states, what is the significance of India's upcoming household income survey? Discuss how it differs from existing surveys and the major challenges it faces in collecting accurate data. So write your answers and post them in our Telegram group. We will review and evaluate the answers as soon as possible. Now let's move on to our second article, contempt of court in India. Reason allegations of contemptuous remarks against the Chief Justice of India CJI and the Supreme Court have revived the debate on what exactly constitutes contempt of court, balancing the freedom of speech under Article 19 with the need to protect the authority and dignity of the judiciary. So this topic is very important for GS paper 2, polity and constitution. So recently, as I already said, recently there's a controversy which raised a debate about what actually counts as contempt. So under our constitution, this is a previous year question, you can practice here. So under our constitution, articles 129 and 215 make the Supreme Court and High Courts as courts of a record, meaning they maintain records of their judgments and have the inherent power to punish for contempt to protect their dignity and authority. So what is contempt? So under the Contempt of Courts Act 1971 classifies it into two types. One is civil contempt and another one is criminal contempt. What is civil contempt? Willful disobedience of any court order. What is criminal contempt? Any publication or act that scandalizes the court, prejudices judicial proceedings, or interferes with the justice. So now, it's also true that fair criticism of judgment is not contempt. But using abusive or scandalizing language that lowers the authority of court is counters contempt. Okay, so already the act classified civil contempt and criminal contempt, but the clarification the Supreme Court and High Court given now is the fair criticism of a judgment. Remember, the key term here is fair criticism. So using abusive or scandalizing language will come under the contempt, but fair criticism is not contempt. This is what the clarification which the court gives. An important case is related to contempt of court, you must remember. So Ashwini Kumar Ghosh versus Arabinda Bose 1952, Anil Ratan Sarkar versus Hirak Ghosh, M.V. Jayarajan versus Kerala High Court, recently in Shanmugam versus Madras High Court. The court said the purpose of punishment is not revenge but to ensure administration of justice. So this is very important. So what is the key takeaway? Courts must protect their authority but also respect freedom of speech under Article 19. So it's a fine balance between accountability and dignity. This is very important point. It's a fine balance between accountability and dignity. So coming to the practice question, now pass here. You can write that down. What constitutes contempt of court under Indian law? Explain the constitutional basis of courts of record and distinguish between civil and criminal contempt with examples. So write them down and write the answers and post in our Telegram group. Let's move on to our third article, the Model Code of Conduct or MCC. This topic always becomes relevant during elections and falls under GS Paper 2, Electoral Reforms and Role of ECI. The article analyzes the MCC, its purpose, frequent violations, and the debate over whether it should be made legally enforceable in light of recent examples like Bihar Yojana launched just before the elections. Okay, now see. What is MCC? Here is the previous year question. You can see directly the questions came from Election Commission of India and MCC also. So it's a very important topic. You can see one more question related to RPA Act, which is related to elections. Now coming to the article, what is MCC? Is basically a set of voluntary guidelines. Underline the word, it is a voluntary guidelines. Okay, voluntary guidelines agreed upon by all political parties. So it's not a law. It's a very important point here. Is MCC is voluntary and not legally enforceable by itself. It's not a law but a moral code to ensure fair play during elections. It comes into force the day election schedule is announced. This is also very important point. It comes or it becomes operational from the date election schedule is announced till the results are declared. Until then it remains active. So again I am repeating, it comes into force the day the election schedule is announced and remains active until results are declared. It says that the ruling government can't announce new schemes, grants, or projects that may influence voters. But here's the problem. Governments often find loopholes. For example, in Bihar's Mukhyamantri Mahila Rozgar Yojana, launched in August 2025, 10,000 was directly transferred to women's account just before elections. Technically, what they said is ongoing scheme. It was called an ongoing scheme, but practically it violated the spirit of MCC by influencing voters. Now, some committees have suggested making MCC legally enforceable, but the Election Commission disagrees because elections must finish within 45 days, but the court cases would drag on. So for now, it remains a voluntary code. So critics says it's more breached in spirit than followed. That is what the article says. There's also a growing argument that simultaneous elections could reduce the number of times MCC halts new policies each year. Simultaneous election is altogether different important main topic that we have to look into. But what the argument supports is simultaneous election could reduce the number of times MCC halts new policies each year. So the takeaway is MCC ensures free and fair elections, but unless there's stronger political ethics and accountability, violations will continue. This is what the conclusion here. Now coming to the practice question, critically examine the relevance and challenges of MCC in ensuring free and fair elections in India. Should it be made legally enforceable? So you have to argue what are the advantages of making that legally enforceable, what are the disadvantages that we have to face. Then finally, let's discuss our fourth article, COP30, the moment of truth. This comes from Brazil, written by its president, and is very important for GS paper 3, environment and climate change. Here is the practice question. COP again is a very important topic. It has repeated so many times in previous years. You can see here. You can take the screenshot of this and you have to mug up. We have no other go. So mug up. They make questions from the COP timeline. This one comes from Brazil. Okay, again, this one comes from Brazil, written by its president. Okay, this COP30 will be hosted in Belém, in the Amazon rainforest, and Brazil president is calling it the COP of truth, meaning the time for promises is over. Now the world needs real action. Brazil is historically important. Why? Means it hosted the 1992 Earth Summit in Rio. Okay, why Brazil is historically important? This is very important because it hosted the 1992 Earth Summit in Rio, which gave us major global environmental conventions like UNFCCC, CBD and UNCCD. You can see here. Now, over 30 years later, the world again returns to Brazil to face the climate crisis again. So at COP30, Brazil will launch a new initiative. What are the new initiatives? You can see here. Tropical Forest Forever Facility, which is a global investment fund to reward countries that preserve forest. Brazil is investing $1 billion in it. It has also updated its nationally determined contribution, promising to cut emissions by 59 to 67% by 2030. Also, Brazil's energy is already 88% renewable using wind, solar, biofuels and green hydrogen, and it plans to divert oil revenues towards clean energy transition. Brazilian president also stressed climate justice, reminding that rich nations who caused most pollution must now pay their climate debt to the global south. At the same time, he connected climate change with poverty. saying we can't fight climate change without tackling hunger and inequality. He is also proposing a UN Climate Change Council to ensure accountability and monitor progress, since existing systems like UN Security Council have failed to prevent crisis. So overall, the article says COP30 is about shifting from promises to accountability, which means from nice words to measurable results. This is a very important words you can use in your mains answer. What the article says is COP is about shifting from promises to accountability. Now coming to the practice question, COP30 to be hosted by Brazil is being termed the COP of truth. Discuss how it represents a shift from climate promises to climate accountability and analyze the role of the global south in shaping this agenda. Alright friends, that's all for today's analysis. We covered 4 powerful topics, which are household income survey, contempt of court, MCC and COP30 Brazil. So each of these connects directly with your GS papers and ethics preparation. So do write your practice answers and post them in our Telegram group. We will evaluate them soon. Thank you for watching. Stay consistent, stay curious and keep connecting news to your UPSC syllabus. See you in the next session.